Fighting games are a fairly niche genre. Aside from Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, and Smash Brothers, most games don't even reach the general public's knowledge. Even within the fighting game community itself, most people tend to stick to the few games they like, know, and love. This gives a lot of games a hard time to be noticed. Eventually, the community saw the rise of subgroups who played anime or poverty fighting games. Both of these titles refer to fighters with a very anime aesthetic and game style, or games that are made on a low budget. Koihime Enbu is a game that could be described as belonging in those two categories. It's a genuinely good and interesting game that could go pretty much unnoticed if it wasn't for these groups. Koihime Enbu can only hope to draw in an audience with its neat mechanics to even see the slightest bit of relevance. But what is it that Enbu supposedly does to draw in a crowd? What makes it a good game?
演術が舞踏大会を開く？はい。しかもその大会の優勝商品は天国の玉璽だとか。
Koihime Enbu is a spin-off of the light novel franchise titled Koihime Musu. Players who haven't heard or know anything about the source material will still have no problem understanding the main plot of this game. There is an arcade mode and a scenario mode. Both seem to be pretty much the exact same thing, so why there are a different option is unclear. In the scenario mode, players choose a character and go through the story mode, which consists of just character portraits with Japanese voice acting and English text. It's nothing out of the ordinary, and all stories don't really do much to explain why who is fighting who. The characters just kinda come across one another on a quest during a tournament and fight each other. There are one or two moments where the story takes time to potentially expand on its characters, but it never really does. Endings also seem to mostly involve one character trying to have sex with the rest of the cast. Koihime Enbu's story doesn't explain its world and its characters. The only people who might know the who's, what's, and even whys are the people with knowledge of the source material.
必ずや最後まで勝ち抜き、カリン様に伝国の玉璽をお渡しするのだ。とか言ってたら。やる。やるの。
Koihime Enbu plays pretty differently from other anime fighters. It doesn't rely on flashy moves or long Marvel-esque combos. Instead, the gameplay is more like Street Fighter, with a weird tint of hyper fighters. Most combos don't go over the 8-hit mark, and while air juggles are a thing, they aren't true air combos. Players can do a 3-hit combo on the ground, launch an opponent, and get another 3 or 4 hits after that. It feels like a blend of Marvel's crazy combo launcher air combo game, but with Street Fighter spacing. It makes for a rather unique game. 3 buttons are used as a heavy, medium, and light attack, plus a dedicated grab button. And that's it. Players can also use an assist character, which is meant to give you a bit more options, but in the end feels very inconsequential. The game doesn't go too deep in the mechanics. There are a move called Hogeki moves, which puts your opponent in a stunned kind of state, which allows you to continue your combo or do a special super move that can only be done in set state. While it doesn't have that many mechanics and it's fairly easy in its execution, it's a fun and engaging game. That isn't to say that there aren't any problems. Perhaps the game's biggest flaw is that all characters seem very similar. Not only from design standpoints do they look a lot alike, but all characters are motion characters, which makes them feel less unique. The lack of modes is also lamentable. Nonetheless, the game feels really good to play, but be sure to bring your friends along, because the online was already dead on arrival. Instead of using sprites like most anime fighters, Enbu decides to go the Guilty Gear Xrd route. All characters are 3D models, with the backgrounds being drawn portraits. But since this is a rather small team with a lower budget, don't expect the game to look as good as Guilty Gear. The models tend to stand out a bit in the background, but it's nothing too bothersome. Characters are animated much in the same style as Xrd, and that for certain things like idle poses, there are fewer frames to make the models come over as 2D sprites. While that aspect looks good, the latest Guilty Gear uses more techniques to make the game look as nice as it is, and the team behind Koihime Enbu might not have the knowledge or skill to do these things. The 2D artwork only translates well into 3D from certain angles. When certain positions or angles are used, the models should be switched out with one that makes the character still look good. This is not the case here. Sometimes a character looks off, because it shows them in an awkward angle the 2D artist did not have to keep account for. These are small and nitpicky complaints, and don't in any way make the game look bad. Effects and hit sparks look great, and make the game's colors pop. The game's biggest flaw on an aesthetic level is that characters tend to blend in with each other. There are a handful of characters that use spear-like weapons, and the fact that the cast is all female with the women designs not really being varied makes them indistinguishable sometimes. The menus and UIs have a distinct Chinese design, and combined with the color pattern makes them look nice. Likewise, the stages all have nice oriental designs. The music is a weird mix, with thematically fitting Chinese-inspired tracks and a tonal shift to techno music. Koihime Enbu makes itself stand out from the crowd by using 3D models, similar to how the latest Guilty Gear does it. And while of course not as good, it still manages to look really nice. Koihime Enbu is a great little fighting game. It's slow on mechanics but has some cool stuff going on. It plays much slower than other hyper anime fighters, and is way closer to games like Street Fighter 2 or Fatal Fury in terms of pacing. It's pretty unclear what's going on story-wise, other than the main cast is fighting each other and someone to have casual sex with other characters. Thematically, it's based on the romance of the Three Kingdoms, and it reflects that pretty well in its visual presentation and music, other than some tracks for some reason being techno-themed. The game uses 3D models, but these are treated like sprites, which makes them look nice, but without the experience of a team such as the guys who worked on Xrd, it has a few problems. Koihime Enbu is a good game that will probably be ignored by many because of its style or lack of exposure, but those who will find their way to this game will find an enjoyable experience. Alright, that's another review done. This review was going to go online before Resident Evil 4 alongside another review, but both got delayed for their own reasons. I'll get into why the other one got delayed in that video, but this one got delayed because of because the audio I recorded, I added a few lines and people noticed it. People noticed that the audio was kind of fucked, so I decided to just scrap the whole thing and re-record my lines and re-edit it to make it work a bit better, which is this version, which I'm a bit more happy about. The review itself is based off my written review, but heavily altered, and I feel like the written review itself is kind of wonky in some places. Like my focus on Guilty Gear and the poverty fighting game genre is kind of unnecessary. Yeah, that's something I wouldn't do nowadays. But yeah, overall I think the review still serves its purpose, so that's why I decided to still do it. But yeah, expect a lot more fighting game reviews in the future. I'm gonna try and cover as many as I can. The next review is one I'm really excited for, as I feel the written review is really solid. It's been a while since I checked it out, but I let it ripe a bit. So I'm gonna go back and check it out and see what I think of it, and you'll hear about that review in the near future. I hope to see you guys then.